I feel very thankful to be here with all of you because it's nice to talk to people who are gonna get it in a way. I feel like sometimes when I'm traveling and I go to places where, especially when I go overseas, and there are places that are not as engaged or involved with American politics, that there's a sentiment of like we're just watching the show and y'all are like cast in the show, and so that it's very different to have a chat with you. Because I'll be very honest with you, it's been taking me a long time to distill the way I feel about what is happening in LA. Because what's happening in LA over the past couple weeks is it's insane to watch, because I have plenty of friends in LA and I talk to them daily and everything, and I also watch the news, and not maybe since COVID have I seen such distant realities. Do you know what I mean? Like such like completely opposite ends of the spectrum, what is happening and what is said about what's happening. And okay, because if you're watching the news, everyone in LA is dead. They've been dead for a while. The military came, but they were too late. Everyone is, in fact, I think the military dead too. Like it's really just a black hole of death that no one can stop, but somehow the reporters are reporting. And it is strange, because when they send the reporter out to cover what some people are even calling the riots in LA, the reporter, not every single one of them, I'll get to them, but the reporter is standing there while everybody else is standing there. And they're giving a very different report than what we can see behind them. A lot of people don't know this about me, but from the time that I was a child, because I grew up in Louisiana, my family and all the families around me were all affected by Hurricane Katrina. So I have very, very strong feelings about protecting journalists, protecting reporters, and not putting them out there with the weather. Because we see it. We see the weather, and I believe you every time. Whenever you say it's a hurricane, and I look outside, I'm like, that look hurricane-like. I don't then need you to send our local newscaster to hold on to a telephone pole while he tells us how bad it is. The way that these people will almost be horizontal reporting on the wind speed, it's like we don't need them as a visual test of what is happening right now. Everyone watching is inside. There's no one watching from outside like, seems like I should probably move from where I am now. No, I hate that. I hate when it's like weather is one of those things where I'm like, I don't know what the spin could be. Like to a certain degree, I understand when a journalist, when a newscaster feels the need to go. What this shows right now is how many of y'all don't put your phone on silent. Like there's no... No, I know it is. That's crazy. Well then I will be quick then. Yeah. Okay, real quick. Just for a quick second. What? Flash flood. Oh no, the parade. Oh no. Y'all. Don't do that. It's his birthday. It's not my birthday. But a great example, like a flash flood, and they'll put the newscaster in the water, and it's like, well, what we can see here, John, is it's another level of insane, because when it comes to the news and the weather, I don't know what the spin could be. There's a storm outside. No, it's not. Weather, as long as you're not talking about specifically climate change, is like the last bipartisan subject. It's like the last thing. There's no way that anyone hates, conservatives or liberals enough to see the rain and be like, but it's not. Like, that just doesn't happen. It's one of the last tethers to reality, and we make those newscasters go in it. These poor newscasters in Arizona look like they about to pass out. Half the reports they do talking about the heat. They got them over there, no shade. You can tell the budget of a newsroom by how they send the journalists out there, because sometimes they'll be out there and like, blistering heat today in downtown Phoenix, temperatures reaching 111 degrees. Like, stop doing it. If it's hot, we can feel it, and when you tell us, we'll believe you. If it's a hurricane, this is one of the things that I have tried my best to be fair with, because you see people, and I really feel like this only happens here. There's no other country I know of where people proudly go out into the hurricane and like tap dance in the hurricane to show the rain that they're not scared. That's a distinctly American male thing to do, to be like, hey, ain't nobody scared of some water. Come and get me, and they're never seen again. Just saying, you don't really see that anywhere else. And I used to think that those were like the dumbest people in the world. But then as I got older, I was like, you know what? Maybe they just watched the news. And they were like, he's standing out there. And he telling me not to go outside. It's too dangerous, but he outside. What, he think I'm a punk? If he can be outside, I'll be outside. I'll be outside all I want. And then they go outside and then they're never seen again. But the thing with people covering LA and standing in front of, whether it's LAPD or National Guard lined up and protesters a distance away lined up, it's a very different thing, because now they're coloring it for you, but you can see behind them. And it's hard to know what to make of it. Because when I talk to my friends in LA, they're like, very chill. They're always chill, but like they're very chill in this specific instance. I called some of my friends, because I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm not better than anybody. I fell for some of like the propaganda that was going on. I called some of my friends immediately, because I don't know LA neighborhoods that well. And I live in New York, where if something is happening, it is happening to everyone. Thoroughly happening to everyone right now. And so, okay. okay, I'm digressing for a second, but just as an example, one time there was all I can describe it as is like a tiny tornado of trash. It literally was not taller than this mic stand, but it was spinning because it was a windy day out and the trash wanted to be together, I guess. And so the trash spinning. And it's like, I don't know, I grew up like, deep south and everything. So whenever I see one of those, I'm like, ooh, that's a bad spirit. Like I get real superstitious real quick. If you a tiny tornado, if you an eye level tornado, I don't come near you, all right? That's a bad spirit. You got Dorito bags in you and everything. You got all types of disgusting stuff. No, I might get possessed. And so I was keeping my distance, but there were other people walking down the street. I actually crossed the street because I saw it up ahead. I was like, nah, I don't need those problems. Like, I like having my whole body, mind, and soul. I don't want some of it to be like Derek from 81st. You know what I mean? Like, that feel like who would possess you? Just somebody who like never had a job and burps as loud as possible. And so I crossed the street, but there were other people that were walking next to me that kept going, and they walked right into it. And even though I was across the street, I knew when they walked into it because my back was turned and I still heard. I'm like, not walking into a tight tornado with your mouth open. That's just irresponsible. And sure enough, that tight tornado got like 8 people. Just being itself. If something happens in New York, it's happening to everybody. If one train is down, the city stops. We get around it, people get mad, they get off the train, they run to work, they hop on a bike or whatever, they take a cab, but like one thing happens, it has a ripple effect. LA doesn't seem like that to me. Like I've been in different parts of LA and I thought all of it was like one thing. I couldn't have been more wrong. And so I was calling my friends, I was freaking out because I was seeing the stuff that was happening. Waymos, you know the driverless car that shouldn't exist? You know that thing that's just on the road and we all act like it's normal, but we're slowly acting out the plot of iRobot currently? You know that thing? Those were on fire. There were Waymos on fire. So I called my friends like, you not in a Waymo, are you? Oh, if you in a Waymo, get out right now. Because to be fair, we didn't really even know why the Waymos were on fire. Maybe there were people setting the Waymos on fire, but maybe the Waymos saw all the unrest and they were like, this is our time. One time I was with my friend in San Francisco and a Waymo passed by and he was admittedly very high. But he doesn't trust Waymos because the first time he ever took a Waymo was by accident because he lost his wallet, his phone, like he got all his stuff stolen, right? And so he asked a friend to get him a ride home. Okay, so he gets the friend to get him a ride home. He doesn't know that friend used the app Waymo instead of like Uber or whatever. So then he's high in the story too. He's actually high all the time, but he gets into the car and he's like, a little fade, a little drunk, a little high. And then he gets in the car and then the car takes off. And so the way he told the story, I wasn't there. The way he told the story is finally he asked, for a little music. He's like, dang, it's quiet in here, dog. Can you turn something on? And he half nodding off anyway, but he's like, can you turn something on? It's quiet in here, dog. Like, let's get it popping, Can I get some? It doesn't matter what it is, whatever you like, dog. Anything. Yo, I know you hear me talking to you. And then he said he leaned forward. This is how he tells the story. He leaned forward and saw nobody was in there, and then he started praying because he was like, "No, you know what? You know what? You know what, Lord? You know I haven't been right. I haven't been right. And if you see me through this, I swear I'm gonna change my ways. If you see me through this right now, if you deliver me through, I'm gonna leave the alcohol alone. I'm gonna leave the weed. He gets home, he sees his house, he's like, thank you, Lord, thank you. And obviously he was lying because he was high when he was next to me. But a Waymo passed by and he was like, that thing right there, nobody gonna believe me when I tell you, but that thing right there, I don't trust those things, all right? Let me tell you something right now. That thing over there, all AI, all self-driving intelligence stuff, don't trust that thing. Believe me, that's a transformer. Look, all I'm saying, if I wanted to act out the plot of one of the Transformer movies, what would I do? I'd come down to earth, there's a bunch of driverless cars, keep it easy for a little while, and then one day, boom. Don't get in there. Don't get in one of them. You're going to end up in his chest. I'm telling you right now. And so I called so many of my friends. I was like, hey, are you okay? Are you good? And they were like, yeah, no, I'm fine. And they said they were fine with the annoyance of like, They said that they were fine with the annoyance that I have when my mom calls me to ask me if I'm okay. She saw that there was a storm in New York, and I'm like, no, it was just a bunch of trash spinning in a circle. It's not that serious. You worry too much. No, they were genuinely like, no, that's actually here. And they started explaining LA neighborhoods to me, and I'm not gonna lie, I glazed over. Like I just... But once I knew that they were safe and that everyone I knew was safe, I was like, well, then where is this happening? I know a lot of people in LA. I've called a lot of people. Everybody is fine. Where is this happening? It turns out it's all happening over like, I think 2 square blocks. I don't even know. It's like, it's such a small area. It might as well be a movie set. And it's crazy because if you listen to, Fox News, some of these outlets, you would think that the entire city was burning right now. There are people sharing stories on Facebook, and the entire place is devastated. And the president said, if I didn't send the National Guard, they'd be in shambles right now. But then when you look at video, and I'm not talking about video from protesters, I'm not talking about video of bystanders of the protest, I'm talking about video of people in Los Angeles, 2 blocks away from the protest. There are people literally blowing bubbles. And there is no opposite to your city being on fire than bubbles. Bubbles are like a truly first world problem. Like, and they weren't even blowing bubbles regular. They were over here like, once you do it with your foot in the air, that's too much whimsy for your city to be on fire. Not blowing bubbles like, blah, blah, blah. Look at that, that's so cool. I'm talking about, And it is difficult when it's presented in front of you so heavily, an agenda with reporting, versus just saying what happened. I didn't even know you could do that, by the way. It wasn't until I left the country and watched the news in other countries that you could just say what happened. Like when you watch the news in Spain, they don't even put a spin on it. They're just like, yeah, right there. They don't even try. This is what's crazy, is that the news around the world, they don't even try to be entertaining. They give it to you so straight, they don't even have good voices half the time. Sometimes there's a guy being like, yes, 2 people were found in the basement, and they said that they were trapped there by the man who lived there. Very dry, nothing. They're not putting on 2 people found dead. Like, it's... That's my favorite, by the way. I love when an anchor is like going out of a fun story to a sad story, but either they didn't get the stack of reports ahead of time, or they're just reading the prompter in real time, so they don't know that they need to do the tone shift, and so they just finish like promoting a shelter that has saved like 67 puppies or something. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that sweet? I mean, you just love to see stuff like that, don't you? Anyway, 15 burned to death in a fire. Oh. And then you see in their eyes that they're like, I already started high. I started up here if I drop it now. And sometimes they try to drop it. They're like, found dead this morning. Don't act like you weren't talking the whole time. That was you the whole time. But you even see it in LA, because the misconception people have is that the thing that initially happened in LA versus like protesters and ICE and everything was like all over LA, was just all happening at one time, when actually it's around these very few square blocks. That's where all of it's like going down. You know, I'm not saying there weren't protests in other places, but those protests went on without incident. It's here. This is like the main sticking point, and this is what they keep shooting footage of over and over and over again, and showing you over and over and over again from different angles, right? And they're so thirsty for it that there was one dude that had a Mexican flag, was on a smashed up car, and you can see when you look at the picture that there are like 15 cameras surrounding the car looking up at him, and then everyone protesting is like a block down with nobody there. You know, because they're selling you a story. They're selling you a story about chaos that's unfolding and everything. And they even, will have the newscaster out there. This journalist is out there. And I have a lot of respect for journalists. They do an incredibly difficult job, and they have to do it under constraints that some of us can't understand. Because if you worked your entire life to try to get to the truth, and then you finally get a job, maybe it's not even a well-paying job, and you're allowed to tell the truth until like your newspaper gets bought. And then it gets bought by a guy that's like, the truth though. I mean, what is truth really? Just say whatever I tell you to say. But it is a difficult thing to distill for yourself, because you have to. You can't just, I'm not saying that there was ever some golden age where all of media was honest and forthright. I'm just saying that it used to be a little bit more simple. That you were even overdoing it if you checked, 3 sources to see if something was true. Because there are things that used to be delivered with a little bit less. You still had the bias of the outlet, but it was a little less political at all times, and there was a little less looking for the bleed. Here's what happened, and I said it in a sexy voice. That used to be American news. And now we've slowly become this more and more and more like corporate warped version of trying to do the news. News became entertainment. It became a show. And there's a show, it's entertainment, because they're not delivering you the news out of the kindness of their hearts. I'm not saying that the journalists that are doing the news aren't dedicated. I'm saying that the body, the system and the machine that we look to for reporting is just, they're trying to sell razors in between every disaster. Like, that should tell you something, Because you see the report, and you see people, chaos in the streets in LA. Look at everything that's happening. And then you talk to someone who's in LA, or you even just look at an Instagram story that your friend made on a random day who's not that far from the protest. And you're like, I don't know, they are loading up their car with Trader Joe's. Like, that doesn't feel apocalyptic at all. Like, if you can get the sliced mango from Trader Joe's, I think the supply chain is intact. That's one of the first things to go. We don't even have mangoes like that. Oh, news says absolute chaos, and then you look at somebody's TikTok that they're making, not even about the protest, just that they're making. They live in LA, and while they're making this protest, while supposedly the city is on fire, they're finding parking. That's not supposed to happen ever. And one thing that can't be lost on us when we think about or talk about Donald Trump is the only thing that he's ever been successful in is reality TV. We don't know him from the steaks. We don't know him from the casinos. We don't know him from the vodka or the water, which was probably vodka. We don't know him from anything except truly reality TV. Even in real estate, it's like, okay, it's like a name, but I don't know anyone who ever lived on one of those properties. It's the TV. He figured it out. He figured out reality TV, and he's still doing reality TV. He's just doing it as the president. The mix of reality and TV is a different cocktail for every show. There are shows that are 10% reality and 90% TV, where if you took away the TV element, none of these things would happen. These people would know each other. And then there's some that are 50-50. Like, I feel like Love Island is 50-50. You know what I mean? Love Island to me is because, look, even if there was no show, these are the people who would be hooking up with these people. Like, this is every time you watch a cast introduced of Love Island, you're like, that seems right. Like, that's who everyone goes for that's in that group anyway. They all seem happy. There's never like a guy in Love Island that's like, so ladies. Just floating like an NPC. Like, it's always somebody with like 9 abs. And you're like, how do you get the extra? When he's standing up, when he's sitting down, it's very defined. It's shows that are even mostly reality with a little hint of TV, just a little bit of producing to make sure it's polished enough for the people so that they can consume it and not be thinking about how they're on like a 5th episode of it, And that's where Trump comes from. He comes from reality TV. It's the only thing that he's ever been really, really good at making. And that's what he's doing right now, reality TV instead of governing. Because if he were governing and he really wanted to be smart about it, this dude would do what he does best. He'd just lie. Think about this. This man lies about everything. And this immigration thing is the only thing he's like actually trying to do. It's very weird. Like, it's a long walk, but stick with me for a second. As presidents go, most deportations have been going down. They were, I think, at least in recent memory, they were the last highest under Obama, but Obama did them all through the courts and everything. It wasn't just like a rounding up type of thing. And so then Biden had less, Trump even had less in his first term than Obama. And then now, Trump, right now, even with the show, has less than he had the first time. And it's weird to me because in the campaign, we were promised that there were millions. There were millions of illegal immigrant criminals. They were behind you. Have you checked your pants? They're in there too. They're under your bed. They're everywhere. You can't throw a constitution without hitting an illegal criminal alien. We were told that there were millions of them in the country. Yet somehow, when ICE really starts ramping up, because we're really doing this thing, it takes like a week before they were like, have you tried a school? Like, I don't know. Yeah, I can't find any. That's crazy. We got a couple that first week, but yeah, I guess there were only like 3,500 or whatever. I guess we just got to start going everywhere, and that's what they did. That's why it is the way it is, because ICE is over here trying to do these deportations, trying to grab people and everything, but I thought there were millions of illegal criminal aliens. Why are you finding them all at work? Like, I just had no idea that my local taco spot was specifically MS-13 Tacos. I had no idea that Tra de la Ringa, the gang I can't pronounce, I had no idea that that's who was like folding the clothes at Kohl's. Like, that's... Because that's what you've been led to believe. Every arrest is warranted. ICE is trying to do their job. All of this mandated. makes sense. That's what you've been told. And the thing is, you need to make a show out of it, because even with all the chaos, even with all the footage, it's still less. That's crazy. Even with you going around the court, it's less. That's wild. That it's still less, even with all of this show going on. Because what isn't a show, what's actually reality, is that people are being ripped away from their families. And these are hardworking people. These are people that have been here for a long time. These are a lot of people who are actually trying to do the right thing as hard as they possibly can. But the system is slow and it's imperfect. And then they get arrested by ICE at the courthouse for their hearing. And all of this when Trump could have just lied. He could have just been like, yeah, I did it. Who would say he didn't? All of his fans would be like, he did it. He said he was going to do it, and he did. I don't even know when he did. That was so fast. Damn. Even Democrats would be like, yay, you did it. Like, the one time he doesn't lie. And so you have this ICE operation happening on these square blocks, these protesters clashing with ICE. ICE doesn't feel safe. They don't feel like they can make movements and everything. And so then, the LAPD comes, and maybe the LAPD was there the entire time, I don't know, but the LAPD is there, and Trump sends in the National Guard. Now, he can't send in the National Guard just to arrest people and crack skulls and everything like that. So what he does, he tries to get around it by deploying the National Guard just to protect these two buildings. But then they're there in case ICE feels like they need their help detaining someone, or that they aren't able to carry out their operations, right? So, dangerous precedent, but whatever. So then Trump wants to send in the National Guard, which everybody, not every single person, but most people were upset about, because the LAPD, in case you're not aware from TV, from movies, or just from history, historically loves to whoop ass. That is their favorite thing. The LAPD can't stop whooping ass. They love, it's their number one. And so when the LAPD found out the National Guard was coming, I know they were probably like, but I didn't even get to. No, go ahead, send. Yeah. No, you know what's best, send them in. No, you want to do it. And then the National Guard comes, and there's not a ton for them to do, because it's like 2 square blocks. No matter how many times they keep showing you the same footage over and over and over again of these things burning, of this 3 stores that got looted. They show you the same thing over and over, but it's just not happening that way. And it's not that spread out. People are finding parking in Los Angeles. And so the National Guard gets there, and they're like, all right, yeah, okay. All right, so there's nothing to do, and you deployed us without making sure we had a place to sleep. So then they're all on the floor. They're sleeping on the concrete with nothing to do, and everybody's mad now because National Guard isn't getting paid what the LAPD is getting paid, so now the LAPD can't whoop ass. National Guard here for no reason. And then Trump is like, send the Marines then. I know if you're in the LAPD, you're like, the Marines? National Guard had to be like, the Marines? Even the Marines had to be like, the Marines? And the LAPD just sitting there like, I just want. Is whooping a little ass too much to ask? But I know that it's very, very, very important to understand what's reality and what's TV, and not to confuse the two. And the way to combat reality TV being everywhere all the time is real connection with real people. I was able to call people or text people who were in LA that told me, no, I mean, there was parking at Trader Joe's. Everything actually pretty chill. And without that, I might honestly be like, I don't know, y'all. There were 3 Waymos on fire. I took it as a lesson. And I would hope that more people see the things that were happening in LA and make sure that outside of any news outlet you follow, outside of like any narrative that you make the choice to believe, because there are so many varying narratives for every event that you do have to make choices, that above all of those things, you will talk to people. Because talking to people is the real perspective that you need. When you talk to someone who's really going through the thing, no matter what it is, no matter what it is, even bigger than LA, even bigger than the protests, when you talk to someone, you finally get from their perspective right to the root of an issue, as opposed to whoever's talking over them. Oh, and I think that for me, talking to my friends, making sure that they were safe, let me know that this thing was not what it was being made out to be. Don't get me wrong. I think that something was starting in LA, and I think that thing is scary. I think that there's a push to make authoritarian moves and to see how far things can be bent and how much people can be pushed and pulled before they'll do anything about it. And I think that LA was a perfect test for that. Let's take something that's really just 2 blocks and let's make it look like it's the entire city, and we'll see if they believe us. Let's send in all the cops we have, then the National Guard, then the Marines, and see how much people want that, if they go for it or not. So something is happening, and I would encourage every single one of you to hold on to everyone that you know. DC is one of those places where everybody is from everywhere and everyone knows everyone everywhere else. And if you keep that type of like global community together, you'll have no problem, in my opinion at least, distinguishing what's happening from what's not, because you'll have people that you can talk to, people that are really going through the thing in real time. I'm not saying don't watch the news at all. Sometimes they have newscasters on there who they put in the hurricane. It's very entertaining. Yo, DC, y'all been fantastic. Thank you so much. I appreciate y'all.
Hey, I've struggled with an idea for a while, and it's how like everybody, this sounds so dumb, just hold on. Give me a second. But it is crazy that everybody is a person. What I mean by that is when you're like a little kid and you just living your life, you go to school and then you go home and then sometimes you play with your friends and sometimes you stay in and you watch cartoons. You know that you have a life. You know that you're a whole person, even if you don't have a full awareness of yourself. You know that you go to different places and you do different things. Even when you have a new experience, it doesn't even occur to you to be like, oh no, I don't do that. Because you're a kid just experiencing the world. But there are boxes that we put people in. I think it's completely unintentional. I don't think there's any malice behind it. But I remember the first time that I realized that someone who I definitely cared about and I definitely enjoyed their company and I definitely liked was a whole other person. I was a little kid. I was with my mom at the grocery store and we saw my teacher. And I was shocked. I was like, I said it out loud. I said it to her. Why aren't you at school? If you're here, then whose? It was a crazy thing in my head. My brain was breaking in that moment. I'm this little kid. I've only ever seen her at school. She's supposed to be at school. I shouldn't see her if I'm not at school. And she's over here buying groceries. I was like, you eat groceries? This is wild. And then she was over here having a conversation with my mom. They both ignored me asking why she wasn't at school. I still had questions. And then she, said she'd see us on Monday and walked away. And in my head, I was like, Monday? It's Saturday. She's not even going to be at school tomorrow. blew my mind that one of my favorite teachers had like a house. And like, I'd always heard about her husband, but I thought that's just something teachers say to like pass the time and stuff. She had a whole life. And it feels like a silly lesson to learn when you're a kid, and then you get older and you realize you have to keep relearning it over and over again because you meet more and more people and you've already boxed them in. And then they surprise you, and then you think, oh, I'm a little ashamed I was even surprised. I should know from when I was like 6 that people are like, everybody's a person. But it's an easy lesson to forget because you can only sometimes see a person in a certain way. You know? Like my friend, I have a couple friends now who they've got drunk with their parents, you know? And it's a boundary that some people never break with their parents. Sometimes their parents are like, oh, you know, I'm gonna have a couple drinks, but I'm not gonna be drunk in front of my son. You know what I mean? And then there are people who will always have that thing of like, oh, I don't want to be drunk in front of my parent. You know what I mean? It's like weird. I feel like I'd be in trouble. It's like, well, you're 42. Yeah, but still. I don't know. I don't want my mom to see me drunk. And it's like, well, she saw you at your worst as a baby. I guarantee you drunk just brings you like one step above baby. But it was an interesting thing. My friend said that he had a couple drinks with his dad. Now his dad was a sort of interesting case because when he was a kid, I don't know all the details, but his dad drank. And then there was something, whether it was something that happened or just like a general attitude towards drinking. At one point, his dad was like, you know what? I'm just not going to drink anymore. And he went like cold turkey sober for years and years and years, right? So he drank pretty heavily when my buddy was a kid, didn't drink until he was long out of the house. And it wasn't until after my buddy graduated college that his dad would like drink once in a while, you know, have a drink with him. And finally, one day, his dad was like drunk with him. And he noticed his dad like drunk. And he was like, it's crazy because I know my dad used to drink. And I can only see my dad as my dad. So knowing my dad is like an annoying drunk. I don't know. I guess I forgot he could be a whole person. Like, because his dad had this weird like rivalry with him when he was drunk. He, you know, walk up to him, impromptu, off of nothing. They're in the backyard. And he's like, hey. You know, looking good, young man, looking strong, looking tough. I mean, you looking real strong. You know, what? You think you're stronger than me? What? I mean, no, do you think he's stronger than me? We should race. You want to race? And he knows that a foot race with his dad sober wouldn't even be a contest. So he's like, nah, Dad, I'm good. He's like, no, come on. You know, if you're scared, say so. If you're scared, say so. If you're scared, the old man still got it. If you're scared, say so. Said he made it into one of the most annoying songs he had ever heard in his life. Just until he would raise him, if you scared, say so. And finally, he's like, all right, look, we'll race, fine. And he thinks if he stands up, his dad might just forget, you know, because he's at that level of drunk where he's on a mission, but not a mission he has to complete. Y'all know that mission. This is one of my favorite missions to watch people have on like a night out. You know, especially with like, one of my favorite side quests in any night out that a bunch of ladies are having is finding one of their phones. One phone will go missing, and it will be the biggest deal in the world for 12 minutes. And then the person whose phone is missing will be like, let's just dance. It's like, all right, but you should go get your phone though. Like, you do need to call an Uber at some point and get home. Like, we need your phone. It's like, yeah, but like later. Like, I don't know. It's just like, I don't even care. It's like, this is my song. And then it resets, because then like several songs later, it'll be like, yeah, you look so good. I'm gonna take a picture of you. Oh my God, everybody stop. Everybody stop. Not their friends, everybody in the club stop. Everybody stop. And so this dude stands up thinking like his dad's about to be over it anyway. And he's like, Dad, I really don't want to, like, we're having a good time. Like, let's just chill out. And his dad goes, no, race me. He's like, all right, fine, okay. So they line up. He's not really gonna race his dad. He's gonna like walk and let his dad win so he can feel good about being annoying for 15 minutes. But his dad stands up and he's ready. You ever see somebody look at a finish line like it's moving? Like, and then he said, all right, you ready? And they had already decided that his mom would say when to go. And so she said, go. And my buddy didn't even go. His dad took 3 steps and crashed into the patio table. I don't know, yeah, it's gotta be tough. That's a moment that's like, tough. You just know that now. You know your dad your whole life, and then now you're like, oh yeah, but like after the 5th Jameson, he will. You know. And that changes how you look at your dad a little bit, not even in the form of judgment, just like there's more information, and you see him as like a whole person. You know good, you know bad, you know arguing with them, you know, and now you know this thing that you didn't really experience in the same way when you were a kid. Now you know. Even 4 Jamesons in, he's gonna go, no. Oh. Like I don't know if it's possible to remind yourself every time, every day, that a person is like a whole person. Because we are so distant. Person to person. Like when you meet someone that you've maybe heard about, you can only go off your impression. That impression is colored by whoever told you about this person. And it's hard to remember. I try to remind myself all the time that like, we're meeting this person. Nothing nice has been said. But I'm sure they have a dog. I don't know, like some redeeming quality. You try to approach it like that. And you know, I fail at it a lot. You know, sometimes I let, whether it's gossip or just like a preconceived notion, take over. And then you end up being friends with this person. And you feel even worse because you're like, oh, I judged you so harshly when we met. You know, some of my best friends, when I met them, hated their guts. I hated because I was just like, oh, just look at his face. One of my best friends from college, when we met, us meeting was me asking him for a pencil and him going, what? And so I just turned back around. I was like, all right, jerk. Turns out he just didn't hear me. We're like really good friends now, but yeah, that was not a great way to start. One of my best friends, we had that same thing. So he's a big dude. He's like 6'4", 6'5", like a strong guy, wide guy, right? Big dude. And we were both friends with a different guy. This is freshman year of college. And we had both done things in front of each other that made us go like, I don't know if I like that guy. Like I like our mutual friend, but I don't know if I like him. And then we kept being in scenarios where maybe we were waiting for our mutual friends and we were left alone with each other. And in my head, maybe it's because of where I come from, and maybe it's because I've never been the biggest guy in the room, but this is a big old dude and he doesn't seem like he liked me. So in my head, I was like, I just gotta act crazy. Like if I'm crazy, that'll keep at bay his size. Because even a big man doesn't want to get bit. You know what I mean? I don't care how big and strong you are. Once everybody saw what Mike Tyson did to Evander Holyfield, they were like, oh yeah, crazy wins. Crazy will always win. I like my whole ear where it is. And then he noticed me being crazy. And so he was like, all right, I'm gonna have to flex how big I am. There was one time where we were waiting on our mutual friend because, forgot to mention earlier, our mutual friend was his roommate. So I had to be in their room a bunch before we actually got along. And I don't know, I saw him like eyeing me, and this is a college dorm room. So there's not a lot of space. So I'm like, this big guy's eyeing me. We're both waiting for our friend. So then I didn't know what to do. So I just started singing lyrics to Kanye West's 808 on a Heartbreak. No music, impromptu. And the lyrics I chose were, when I grab your neck, I touch your soul. And I just sang it to the wall, but loud enough for him to hear me. And I would later find out that when I did that, he was like, all right, that's one of the craziest things I've ever seen. In my entire life, I was trying to mug this dude into submission, but now he done sang to the wall, not even facing anything. I don't know what he talking about. Why did he sing it too? That's crazy. That's crazy as hell. It's so much crazier to sing than it is to scream. Like if you come across somebody on the street and they scream it, you're like, all right, that's regular. If they are singing lyrics you don't know exist yet, because the album had just come out, if they're singing lyrics you don't know exist yet, get away. And so he was like, I gotta do something. I've got to do something. And the thing that he decided to do was we both got a text from our mutual friend that it would be quicker for us to meet him where he was than wait for him to come back and us head out together. And so we decided to head out together. And while I'm in the hallway, it's a long hallway from the door room to the end of the suite. And when I'm in the hallway, I go, ah. And he says, what? And I'm like, I think a mosquito bit me. And I was being completely sincere in this moment. I started itching. I was like, what? And he's like, what happened? I think a mosquito bit me. And then he stands extra tall, every bit of 6'5", lets his eyes dart around the hallway and goes, you hurt my friend. And then he punched the wall as hard as he could. And when he moved his fist from the wall, there was a dead mosquito. And I was like, oh Lord, he big and crazy. Oh, I'm sick. Oh. And then we became best friends. We became best friends because we got to know each other. We got to know each other, and I got to know him as a whole person. I got to know how cool he was, how sincere he is, that he would do anything for his friends, including that mosquito thing. And he got to know me, and he still liked me. So we became best friends because I got to see like the whole person, you know? And then finally one day I told him about it. I was like, hey, you know, freshman year, because when we were juniors, we became roommates. And I told him, like, hey, I just want to get something off my chest. Freshman year, when I was in the room with you and I started singing, I was just trying to be crazy because I thought like you were real big and like, I don't know, I had been bullied a lot, so I was trying to like keep you at bay. And he was like, oh, that's so good to know. Which means in the time that we had become friends, he still thought like, no, that's what he does though. Like that's who he is as a person. I was like, that's so good to know, because honestly, I was wondering what I'd have to do. I thought you were genuinely crazy. And that's why I punched that wall. When I moved my hand, I couldn't believe the mosquito had actually... It's wild stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Because it's tough sometimes accepting that someone was like a whole person. Because it is easier. If someone sucks, it's easier to just, you know, lean on exactly what you know, and that's enough for you, and they suck, and that's the end of it. It's not necessary in your mind to get down to the deeper root of the issue about why they might be the way they are. Whatever. They suck, and done talking about them. You know? Like when I think about some of the most powerful people in the world, I think that way all the time. I forget that it's like a whole person because they suck. They suck so much. Like, I do my best to not be closed-minded about people, but the more I learn, the worse it gets. And no person is just one thing. Even monsters. Some monsters that get true crime documentaries made about them. They'll interview the kids. And sometimes the kids will be like, yeah, actually he was like a super present father and everything. Like it was kind of crazy. I know he killed all those people, but he came to all my soccer games. Like it's a lot to process. Well, like I don't know what makes a person. I'm not a psychologist. I don't know what makes a person the way that they are. I just have guesses. Sometimes my guesses are good and I get to have a conversation with a person, see that I was kind of close, and then sometimes my guesses are totally off base because I don't have their mind. I can't act like I know why someone is the way that they are. I know for certain because of the people that I've been around. I know that sometimes when you grow up with real money, real privilege, it can be very difficult unless you are like delusional enough to accept the position you're in as anything more than like the randomness of who is born to who. It's very difficult to feel like you've made or earned anything yourself. If you are just born into billions, you see that's one of the reasons these people have to like make their mark on the world, to prove that they're not just like some accident. Because within those families sometimes, and like, look, I'm not acting like I know billionaires. I know millionaires. And it's a little similar, but at the same time, there are some millionaires that are barely millionaires, so they still acting like they're middle class. Even though they're millionaires, it's actually pretty sad. And then there are people that are like multimillionaires, and I don't even really know that many multimillionaires, but I know those people have at least accepted their position as people with like wealth and privilege, right? I don't know any billionaires, but I do know the people that I am friends with that work with like truly insane net worth individuals have said things like, at a certain amount of money, it's not even money anymore. It's just you moving your will throughout the world. And that is how people with that much money think. And so if you are like a child born into this thing, especially if you don't take to it the way that we imagine people will take to it, because remember, a person is a whole person, but a lot of people will have a kid and have an idea of a child before the child is ever there. And then that idea of a child is exactly what this whole person has to be, or else they're a disappointment, or else they're a failure, right? I had the idea of you before you were ever here. And the idea of you that I had was, we play these sports together. I teach you to do this thing. We go to these things. You love the stuff that I love. Those are the hopes of like every parent. Every parent wants to share the things they love with their kid, and hopefully the kid loves them too. Because as much as you love your sports team, as much as you love your favorite hobby, it'd be so much more enjoyable if the person you love the most loved it too. A lot of people have those hopes. That's common, that's normal. But this like world of wealth, they have an idea of maybe building a legacy, building an empire, and now whoever comes, whatever this child is, they will be someone who can uphold, build up, maintain the empire that I built. They're not having like a child, they're having a vessel to continue their wealth into the future. And that's gotta be difficult to grow up in, because yes, you have all this money, you have all this privilege, you have access to all these different things, but there's a person looking at you like you don't even deserve to be here. And then there's everybody else that if you tried to tell them how it felt, they'd be like, oh, I'm sorry I couldn't hear you through all that money. You know, cry me a river. You ever felt a penny before? And so you see people really trying to exercise out all of this trauma in a way where they still move their will throughout the world. So then we become the collateral damage of them trying to exercise demons, because they have the access to change the world the way that they see fit. And that leaves us in a very dangerous position. And I don't know exactly how to fix that, what to do about that, but I do know it presents itself in like little moments. Small moments where you can see, oh, this is like a kid. This is like a hurt kid. You know? Most powerful man in the world. Incredibly rich, billionaire. But this is a kid. This is a scared kid. This is a hurt kid. This is an angry kid. And I'm not saying that takes away all the damage, all the things that are being created by what this kid is doing. But like, I see you differently now. Like, in theory, I should be scared of you. I should be worried about what your next move is going to be. I should be worried if you're going to send someone to hurt me or my family, because you could do that. You're a very powerful person. But then things happen, and I see you react like a kid. And it's weird to see you as a whole person, you know? Like, I'm not going to, how do I put this? I could tell Trump was hurt by that South Park episode, because the White House released a statement there are school shootings where the White House doesn't release a statement. the White House released a statement. They were like, hey, look, South Park hadn't been relevant for a while now anyway. Nobody even watched. Ain't nobody crying. Nobody hurt. No. Like, I've watched, I watched Trump go to the Fed. He went to the Fed and he was with Jerome Powell. Now, Donald Trump put Jerome Powell in that position, all right? Donald Trump made Jerome Powell Fed chair, right? And now Donald Trump can't stand Jerome Powell and doesn't know who appointed him. And so he goes to the Fed. I guess they showing him where they make the money, shred the money. I don't know why he needed to go. He goes on a field trip to the Fed. You know, this is a very funny thing about Donald Trump. He has been very rich his entire life, but he still acts like new money. I have expected Trump to see the money being printed in front of him and go, but this dude he's at the Fed with Jerome Powell, and look, you can say numbers. You can say numbers in whatever order you want. No, you can say numbers and he can say more numbers. You can say numbers, that's your right to say numbers however you see fit. Whatever numbers you like, you can say them in 4, 3, 3, 4. You can do whatever you want. Numbers are there for you to play with. Numbers serve at your pleasure, right? Say whatever numbers you want in whatever order you want, whenever you want. That will not make it math. And so Trump is talking to the media, and he just like throwing out numbers. He's saying numbers, right? He's numbers, good numbers, and some bad numbers. Let's get those bad numbers out of there. Good numbers, more numbers, extra numbers, right? And quickly, almost immediately, Jerome Powell is standing off to the side, and he goes, Jerome Powell was shaking his head. You know those people who got like perfect pitch? Jerome Powell was shaking his head like somebody with perfect pitch going to karaoke. Like it's... And look, this is not something that happens often. No, Trump's used to talking, and when he talks, people either nod or they stay quiet. And we saw this in spectacular fashion in like 2020. Because he would stand up there, and then the people next to him, the people behind him, sometimes you catch them being like, huh? Like they were still trying to process what he said. But then he would just be talking. And sometimes he'd even turn to them, look for some confirmation. What do you think about that? And then they would be like, we'll have to check. I've never had the taste of bleach in my mouth, but... I suppose anything's possible. These experts, these doctors, these people, they weren't doing the thing that they should have been doing, which was, because he didn't just shake his head, he said it. He said it out loud. No. Maybe we wouldn't be in this position if more people, and I'm not even talking about politicians right now, I mean more people who have to deal with government had the courage to say, no, No. That's not how medicine works. No. That's not science. No. That's not English. No. No. A simple no is powerful. No? And so sure enough, Trump hates Jerome Powell. Trump hates Jerome. Oh, he hates Jerome. Oh. Trump hates Jerome. Trump hates Jerome. Like, let Jerome. Trump hates Jerome Powell. So he hate him so good. Trump hates Jerome Powell so much. He did something he never does. He did something we haven't seen him do either time he's been president. He did something I didn't even think he was capable to do. Trump hates Jerome Powell so much. Through his teeth, he hate him. He hate him so much that Donald Trump did homework. Because he was saying the numbers, and he was saying the numbers, and he was saying the numbers, he was saying the numbers. And then Jerome Powell went, no. And even Tim Scott was next to Trump, nodding and saying yes, while he was saying no. Yes, with those big teeth, saying yes, swinging those teeth, yes. But Donald Trump heard Jerome Powell's no, and it was almost like he had practiced this. He was ready. He hates Jerome Powell so much. Ooh, he hates him. Ooh, he hate him. And so he goes, huh? What? No. Oh, well, I have the paper right here. And then Donald Trump pulled out a piece of paper and handed it to Jerome Powell like it was checkmate. I had never seen this man prepared in his life. Usually, when Trump has a chart or a piece of paper, it's because he already has a point he's trying to make and he's just using that to illustrate. Trump has never had a Trump card. This man pulled out the piece of paper. You could see even Jerome was surprised. He was like, paper? Reading? You saw Jerome had to break out the glasses for it. He was like, oh. And because numbers are numbers, because math is at least something that, even if you have bias, even if you have an intention towards an intended goal, the math will still make sense or not make sense. Something will be true or not true, right? And so even Jerome Powell, I'm not saying I know this man, I'm not saying he's infallible, but in this moment I'm thinking maybe he's even thinking, whoa, what if I'm wrong here? What if there's something I don't know about? The president just pulled a piece of paper out as soon as I started saying no, like he rehearsed this. So he takes the piece of paper, throws the glasses on, and you can see him reading it. You can watch the clip. And he goes, no, this old, no.
I've been very excited to come here. It's been years since I've been to Asheville, and I like being here because y'all have it all. You know, you have like street crime and woods crime. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, this is one of the only places in America where a deer could get shot with a Uzi. You know what I mean? Like, y'all really move it out here. No, it's incredible. I was, last time I was here, we were on the road and we were headed to a show, and there was a dude. Okay, there's no good way to pop out the woods. I'm trying to be fair to him, right? Like, I don't know what I was expecting. I don't know how it could have been better, but there's no good way. This dude, we're passing by in the car, and things happen fast when you're on the highway and everything. But from far away, until I passed him, I see this dude pop out going. And it's so hard to tell if he needed help or if someone else needed help. Do you know what I mean? Like, you either the victim or the assailant, but you looking like you could be equal parts right now. You know what I mean? Because it wasn't like his head, like it wasn't like he had an injury or something. He's like, oh, what happened? He looked surprised that there wasn't more woods to run through. This dude popped out of the woods like there were supposed to be more trees. This man popped out of the woods and froze. And my friends and I were just looking at him in the car as we passed. One pointed and, okay. He ran out of the woods as if to be like, oh, I made it, I'm free. Or, damn, they got away. I can't tell which one it was. No, because he was dressed. It wasn't like he was a naked man, but okay, even if you're wearing clothes, there's a certain amount of legs open that make you feel naked to other people. Yeah, I mean, the fact that he ran out like it doesn't matter that I have pants on right now. This is a very naked stance to take. This doesn't look, these aren't regular clothes stances. And so the fact that he ran out of the woods and stopped and was looking around, it's like, you might as well be naked because you're making us a naked amount of uncomfortable, you know? My man busted out of the woods. And, I wasn't next to him. I was in a car. Thank God I was in a car. But you could just tell from looking at him, he breathing heavy, which means he was running in the woods for quite a while. Looking around all low. Why? Just stand up. Like, do you know what I mean? There's nothing to hide behind now. So being this low, legs open, looking around, this is a much more comfortable position to look around in. This man ran out and we saw him. Okay, so we saw when he busted out of the woods, we were pulling up, so we saw him bust out of the woods, and then one of my friends pointed, and I know he couldn't hear us. I know he couldn't hear us. Like you should know I know that. I know he couldn't hear us, and the windows were up. He couldn't hear us, right? But my friend was like, "Do you see that guy?" And right when he said, "Do you see that guy?" This man, I turned, I looked, and he looked at me. Now I know I'm in a moving car. He probably just looking in my direction, but I screamed like he was in the car. I wanted to have nothing to do. The fact that this man, I'm lit like this, and then this man, nah. Sometimes it's not the time to smile, Smiling after running out of the woods, I think you are the assailant. I think that you... But no, it's great to be back. It's great to be back in Asheville with you. Can I tell you a story? When I was a kid, I was walking down the street, and it's funny, man. Art can save your life. It really can. Cause I was walking down the street, and there was this dude right in front of me, right? And I wasn't like too close to him, but I was just basically keeping up pace with him, and we hit a light, and so he stopped, I stopped, and I was just looking around, and I saw a new mural that had been painted, and I don't know, it just fascinated me. I took a second to look at it, and I guess the light had changed, and we had the right of way, and he went off walking, and I was still just staring at it, and then just as I decided that I had taken it in enough, I turned and got ready to take that step off the sidewalk. And then in the middle of the street, this car had, I guess, run a light and was about to run another light, and it hit that guy, the guy that I was right behind, And he's okay, by the way.
I mean, he did get hit by a car, but like he's the level of okay that you are years after getting hit by a car. He moved on. Like he walked away that day. It mostly hit his ass, but like it did graze him in a way that like, because I was just a couple steps behind him and because I've been keeping pace with him for a whole street, I was like, that would have hit me square. You know? And I mean, they were trying to stop. They had slammed on the brakes. That's actually maybe one of the reasons I turned, because I started hearing the screech and I saw, boom. And he got up, but he did bounce. Like it's like if he bounced, I would have flown. I don't know why it is when you get hit by a car, sometimes your shoe fly off. I don't know why people don't tie their shoes tight enough, but like, this thing like hit him from behind. He spun and he went up a little bit and his shoe flew right. But his shoe took so little resistance to fly off. Like, it would be different if he had like rolled over the windshield and the shoe flew off after that. But the shoe started flying off before it looked like he was really going in the air. It looked like he had one shoe and one sandal. The shoe was so ready to fly off. Anyway. I still can't get over what happened Sunday at the Super Bowl. Like I want to be clear about something, right? I watched the Super Bowl not really rooting for any one team, just sort of watching to watch. This is a big event and everything. And the Chiefs lost harder than the Eagles won. I don't know if that sentence makes enough sense, but it like, at a certain point, I was just like, maybe I could play. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not good either. I could get tackled too. Oh, that was rough. That was hard. There was one point where I was watching it, and I was like, guys. You want to watch a good game. Like, in my mind, you want to watch a good game, especially when you don't have any loyalty to any team. You just want to watch like a really fun, wow, that's crazy type game. And it was such a thrashing that I was like, y'all, not in front of Taylor. Taylor done shown up and got dressed and everything. And there was one point that they went to Taylor on the camera and they booed Taylor. I was like, what did she do? Do you know what I mean? There's nothing America hates more apparently than a woman minding her business. Because even she was like, I couldn't have done anything. But I tell you what, you know, I want somebody to believe in me, to really, truly, from the bottom of their heart, believe in me the way those commentators believed the Chiefs could make a comeback. The things that I was hearing made me feel dumb. I started to feel like I didn't understand football at all the way they were talking. They were talking so wild about, so first 10 points that the Eagles got, they were like, hey, fun little fact for you. Every time the Chiefs win in the Super Bowl, they come from behind. I was like, what's that? Is that all right? Okay. And then the Eagles scored another touchdown. They were like, well, it's only the first half. Anything could happen next half. It's like, all right. And then they have the halftime show. Then they come back from the halftime show, and then they're asking one of the announcers. They're asking one of the commentators, like, what was the mood like in the locker room for the Chiefs? Like, what was the plan? And the person they were talking to was like, they know. No, they know they like 34, 39, whatever points behind. They were mostly talking about that. They were like, oh, we got to go out there and correct that. That doesn't feel good at all. We got to do the opposite of that next time. Was the general mood in there, was to just be different than they were before. I think there was a little prayer. Yeah, they were in, they were in tough spirits, but they're going to try and make a comeback in this next, because,
Taylor's here. We got to do it. And it was the third, I think it was the third quarter. Eagles scored again. And the announcers came on, they're like, look, you never want to celebrate too early if you're the Eagles, right? Because you have no idea what these Chiefs could do. You can tell they're just trying to like save the ratings as hard as possible to make it seem like there could be this 10-second comeback of 59 points or whatever they need. It was the most insane. I was like, no one has ever believed in me the way that they're like, you never know though. Even when it was the last 5 minutes, they were like, you know, you never want to celebrate too early because that's how you can lose the game even when you are 99 points ahead, okay? It's the hubris that loses games. I'm sitting there like, do I not know how to count? Like, it's too many sevens away. I think they got it. Like, I'm not the best at math, right? I'm not the best at math. I needed a math tutor, and my math, okay, I took, well, I was algebra, okay. Math is like one of the only things that I really struggle with genuinely, and not like basic math, but math once it gets like conceptual, right? And so I had to take Algebra 1 twice. It's the only class in my life, I think, or maybe there's one other, but like it's one of the only classes I've ever failed and had to take again, right? And so I'd take Algebra 1 twice, and I was so thankful when I finally got like a C after the second time, and then they made me take Algebra 2, and I was like, last I checked, 1 + 1 is 2. I don't know what y'all are trying to do to me, okay? But while I was at Algebra 1, okay, I had 2 math tutors, and one tutor quit. One tutor quit because it was, okay, they were helping me, and then I was basically getting things so wrong that they were questioning. They had to get away from me before they didn't know algebra anymore. And so then I knew I was bad. I knew that algebra was like never going to be in my job description because my second tutor, there was one time we were working on a problem and she stopped herself just short of fully saying it, but she saw me struggling so hard. This woman almost said, sound it out. And she stopped herself, but you could tell, like, beneath the surface, there was this thing of like, I don't even know how to help right now. And don't get me wrong, I'm not judging. I hate when people look at the efforts of like elite athletes as if they're not all incredible. The Kansas City Chiefs are good. They were just bad that day against the Eagles. I throw a football like I just got an arm. So I'm not gonna be over here judging too harshly, right? It's just the way that they fought so hard. Oh no, they can pull it out. Trust me, they can do it. You know? And then my friend shared a theory with me. This was crazy. This dude told me, I was talking to my buddy David, and David said, because I told him the thing I just told you, right? I was like, I've never seen a game like that where they tried to make it seem so even the whole time, even though the numbers were on the screen. And my buddy David said that Tom Brady was one of the ones really pushing that narrative. And he thinks that it was because Tom Brady is jaded from the fact that off of this potential three-peat, people are already calling Patrick Mahomes like a GOAT, like putting him in that conversation. And so they're like, they're basically lifting up Patrick Mahomes very quickly and very young, very like, you could even maybe say a little early in his career for the GOAT conversation. And then Tom Brady, who's obsessed with the game and gave so much of his life to it, sees that and feels some type of way. And so he was basically telling me that every time they did that, that was actually just Tom Brady digging in. And I watched some of it again, and I think he might be right. Because it was coming off hella sassy when you watch it back with that context. Like when you see Tom Brady commentating on the game, he's like, yeah, Mahomes, I mean, you never know with these Kansas City Chiefs and how good Mahomes is, maybe he can come back from 30 points. I mean, maybe he's just that good. We don't know, right? A lot of people are calling him the GOAT. I mean, not today, but a lot of people are calling him the GOAT. So maybe he could do it. Interesting strategy getting sacked again. I've I've never seen anything, but this Patrick, he's good. He's very good. He's probably used this as a strategy to lose by so many points in the first half that he really comes back in the second half. Because he can, because he's Patrick Mahomes. You know, back when I was playing, I tried to not get sacked, but I guess if I had been sacked more and then won after that, people would be more impressed, but it's... And then you had the Super Bowl halftime show. By Kendrick Lamar. This was crazy because, okay, everyone has their opinions about it, right? But I know when I was watching it and it started, and I saw Samuel L. Jackson. I saw Samuel Jackson, the camera goes over to Samuel Jackson, he's like, it's your uncle, Sam. And I was like, oh, we hadn't already started. That was dope. That was dope to have Samuel Jackson as Uncle Sam was dope. Because one thing is obviously the little like wink wink, cute thing, right? But one thing that Kendrick is incredible at doing, something I haven't seen people really be able to do, whether it's through music or imagery, is layers to a story. There's multiple layers to everything that happened, right? Samuel Jackson is playing Uncle Sam in Body of America, welcoming us to the Great American Game. The Great American Game is in the game of Kendrick's life that's about to play out, right? That's why we see the PlayStation controller on the football field, the game as in football, and the game as in the thing that we're all in, the thing that we all play. Whether you feel like you're playing it or not, you're a part of it. You know? And one thing you have to watch out, because Kendrick leaves these Easter eggs and stuff like that, you also can read so deep into it, you go off on a deep end, where if you were able to talk to Kendrick, he would be like, nah. The internet is full of them. The internet is full of like, yeah, so then he had these dancers come out in red, white, and blue because Drake, because he beat Drake blue, and then you gonna see red because we beat him so much that the red comes out and Drake is white. Like, I think that's a very misguided take. But you can get there. It's very easy to get there. You start searching, hunting, trying to read into every little thing. And if you're not careful, yeah, you go off on some deep end. That's not what anybody intended, you know? And this dude says it because that's the other thing. He sets you up with some pretty fire lines that make you start digging. He specifically says, you wouldn't get the picture if I sat you for hours in front of the Louvre. So now even I'm digging. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, the Louvre. All right. Drake is Canadian, French Canadian, the Louvre. Yeah, French Canadian, the Louvre, like in France where they keep the art. But Drake's not an artist, no. No, that might not be it. That might be, that was dumb, my bad. And so he does the snippet, some people are calling it bodies, and then he does Squabble Up, and out of nowhere, after Squabble Up, Samuel Jackson comes out again, no, too loud, too reckless, too ghetto. One of the things that if you've been black in America at any point you've heard about yourself, whether you overheard it from people talking behind your back or it was told to your face, too loud, too reckless, too ghetto, there's something wrong with you just being yourself. No? And it's delivered by Uncle Sam. Right? I don't know, when I go to like a new place, one time my friend was asking me, because I travel so much, he's like, how do you know how racist a place is when you go there? You know, don't you think about it? I was like, yeah, I think about it. You know, if you're black and you travel America, you think about it a little bit. And I was like, you know, this is the way that I know. I'll just go to like a West Elm or a Patagonia or or a Lululemon, or I'll just walk in and look around, do a little shopping, and just smile at people.
And however long it takes them to smile back is probably how much danger I'm in. You know, you go to Patagonia, you smiling at everybody. Hey, 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 hey. And you get a couple smiles back quick. You're like, all right. We're safe. But if you walk into a West Elm and everybody just looking, looking at each other too. Don't you say something. Somebody finally approaches. They're like, can I help you? I know we're not staying there tonight. So then this dude, Uncle Sam, Samuel Jackson, tells him, tighten up. He asks him, Mr. Lamar, do you really know how to play the game? Do you really know how to navigate? Do you really know what's expected of you? Do you really know what to do next? Then tighten up. And that's a wild conversation to have with someone who maybe even thinks they're helping you, right? Because that's been told to me in different ways by lots of people. Like, tighten up, watch yourself. Don't be too loud, too ghetto, too reckless, you know what I mean? And sometimes it's white people, sure, but sometimes it's older black people that I know that just want you to be safe because they know how the game is played, right? Because I don't know if you can tell by looking at me, but I'm not exactly a hard individual. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not. You know what I mean? Not only am I not a hard individual, I remember one time, you know, my mama tried to raise me to be a gentleman, and there was this one time I was in college, and I'm working on a group project, and one of our classmates was ready to go to her car, and she was like, hey, does anybody mind walking me to my car? And I was like, yeah. And then she was like, does anybody mind walking us to my car? I'm not a hard individual. You know, I'm smiling at everybody. Literally, I use the smile test. That's how I know if a place is safe or not. I smile. I make myself open, right? I show. I'm no threat. And I even got in trouble with my friends one time because we were walking down the street in Chicago and, made eye contact with this cop that he was like mourning, just a little passing mourning. And then I didn't realize it came out like this, but apparently I was like, officer. I don't remember it like that, but apparently that's how I sounded. My friends were very upset with me. One of them said I said it like I was welcoming him home. I thought I just said officer. Apparently I was like, officer? So once again, I'm not a hard individual. So if I've got the speech, if I've got that speech, tighten up. That's too loud, that's too reckless, that's too ghetto. If I got it, damn. There's no end to the game that you can try to play with respectability politics. You know, you can either be yourself or you can't. And if you can't, then to whatever degree that you can't, doesn't really matter. Do you really know how to play the game? Then tighten up. It goes into Man at the Garden. And Man at the Garden is one of those things. It's a refrain. I deserve it all. All these things, right? And he's on the block. And you see these boys on the block, so black. Gold teeth, dreads, everything. And then they scurry. They see Uncle Sam coming. Uncle Sam walks up. Kendrick's already walked off. And he says, oh, you brought your homeboys with you. Okay, little culture cheat code. Turns to the camera and says, scorekeeper, deduct one life.
And some people didn't hear it. Apparently the mixing wasn't great for everybody. So there were some people whose review of Super Bowl halftime was pretty bad, and some people thought they were just being haters. But no, genuinely, depending on where you watched, it depended on the mix that you heard. So there were little things that Kendrick said that either went over people's heads, they didn't quite hear, music was too loud, too soft, whatever. I was watching the Super Bowl halftime on Tubi, and Tubi did incredible. Tubi knocked it out of the park. I was like, man, Tubi was like, this is our chance. We cannot mess this up. A lot of people don't know we exist, and we're literally free. We have to knock this out of the park. And they did, because I heard everything. I saw Samuel Jackson turn, scorekeeper deduct one life, and that thing hit me hard, because that is what happens. That is part of the game. You should know that. That's one of the reasons that it's sometimes scary to stand up. It's scary to be different, because whenever you build community, they usually deduct one life. Whenever you make a movement, they deduct one life. And there are plenty of examples of it happening with black people and black culture, but it is everybody, just so you know. No matter who you are, no matter what you look like, no matter when you came to this country, try to start a union. And look, it might not be you. They might miss. But it is what happens. Deduct one life. And it's wild to hear Samuel Jackson deliver that line, because Samuel Jackson was an usher at Martin Luther King's funeral. Right? Like, Samuel Jackson used to be way more militant. And I'm not saying he's not now. I'm just saying, like, back in the day, he was about that action. He'd lock you in a room and wait till you came to your senses. So then they go to Peekaboo. I don't know, it's just funny to be with Kendrick, just like a Peekaboo. Nah, I had to laugh. People have so many theories about Peekaboo, about him using Luther and all the stars, SZA coming out, being on the triangle. Like, I'm not acting like I caught every single thing, but I know that when Samuel Jackson pops up again and he says, yes, see, that's what we want. That's what we want. That's what America wants. Nice, calm. You're almost there. Don't mess this up. Right? Yeah. Because if we're being honest, that is the truth of the matter. People, even sometimes people who love hip hop, love black people, love anyone different the way that people love those tigers they take pictures with. I don't know if you've ever been on Tinder, but every once in a while on Tinder there'll be somebody with one of their pictures is just them next to a full-blown tiger, hugging them, and the tiger's sedated as hell. The tiger is over here. And they're over there hugging its neck like they're in the Jungle Book. Like, we have to protect these beautiful animals, all right? We have to preserve their way of life. Oh, shoot him again in with a dart. He looked like he was opening his eyes for a second. So sweet, so gentle. Deep down, they're just gentle creatures. Shoot him again. He moved that leg. I don't like what that leg doing. Looked like he gonna get up. And that is how people sometimes, prefer their hip hop, prefer their protests. Why can't you just do it sedated? Why can't you just tone it down a notch, right? And then he plays Not Like Us. And people lose their minds. I loved him. I loved him playing it because of what he said when he started it. 40 acres and a mule. This is bigger than the music. They tried to rig the game, but you can't fake influence. That's wild. If you really think about those lines in any context outside of the Super Bowl, outside of Drake, the song Not Like Us, everything, they still stand all on their own. How many of us feel like we're in a rigged game? And it was beautiful to watch Not Like Us get played on that world stage, Drake tried. He tried his best. That dude tried his damnedest. Not only did he try, that dude went to Australia. Not only was he not in America, he was under the earth. This man went under earth to do, to his credit, I'm not acting like he's not a big artist. I'm not acting like he doesn't have an album dropping this weekend. I'm saying like this dude went under the earth to do an arena show just to make sure at least these people aren't watching the Super Bowl. Can you imagine? You go to that Anita Max Win tour, you paid extra for tickets, you pretty close, and you get a little curious. Drake on stage, what is that? What is that? Get him out of here. Then, you had that dude. That dude performed Not Like Us. When I was what was it, like 2 years ago? I went to visit my friend. Now my friend had a baby years before that. By the time I met his kid was 5 because we hadn't seen each other a really long time. And cutest kid. It's crazy that my friends are having kids because I can see, you ever see somebody who looks so perfectly like a mix of their parents? You see perfectly both of those people in this new person. And we were supposed to hang out all day, and he went and we were in the kitchen and he grabbed something for us to drink. And so he had poured himself an almond milk, poured kid something, was like, "Will you want anything?" I was like, "Oh, I'll just take that." And then poured me something. He's like, "I'm gonna just go ahead and get changed. I'll be right back." He goes upstairs and now it's just me and his kid. And I'm like, "How you doing?" He's like, "I'm good." And it's crazy because he even had I'm just meeting this kid, but he already had my buddy's mannerism. Just that shoulder thing. "I'm good." It's exactly like his dad. "I'm good." It's like, "Oh, okay. You having a good day?" He's like, "Yeah." You know, it's like, "You excited? I think we're gonna go to the zoo or something." He's like, "Yeah, sure, I'm excited. Be fun, you know." And then he turned around and he knocked my milk over. And this kid had been so sweet up until this point. I was sure it was an accident, right? Until he turned to me and he was like, "I spilled your milk." And when I tell you that thing was imprinted on my memory, like I had actually forgotten about it for these like 2 years. Until Kendrick said, "Say, Drake." Kendrick Lamar has an incredible smile, but he always seems to use it for dastardly deeds. This man said, "Say, Drake." I haven't been that scared. I know he was talking to Drake, but even I was at home like, ooh. Like, that man whipped around and said, "Say, Drake," like he just ran out of the woods. Oh, that was crazy. That was insane. "Say, Drake." And then you see a glimpse of Serena. I couldn't believe I saw Serena dance. I was like, "Is that Serena?" And Kendrick and Dave Free must have known we wouldn't believe it was Serena because then they showed her again. I was like, "Well, that is Serena!" That's Serena over there, crip walking. Which, if you pay attention to the layers, you pay attention to the storytelling, one of the most beautiful things about Serena being on stage, crip walking, dancing, right, is not just as a sort of FU to Drake, right? Because it is. Because her and Drake, you know. And then Serena moved on, and Drake couldn't handle it. A lot of people think that Kendrick Lamar is Drake's kryptonite, and he really isn't. Drake's kryptonite is a woman who's moved on.
JB, like, there's nothing that Drake hates more than a woman minding her business. And so he would make songs, little sneak disses at Serena, little sneak disses at Rihanna, all this stuff, right? He loves beefing with women who have moved on. The best way I can sum up Drake to me is one time I was in Chicago, and apologies if you've already heard this little quick story, but I was in Chicago and I was sitting on the train, and this woman gets on the train, beautiful, like knockout gorgeous woman, right? And she ended up sitting next to me, and then this other dude gets on the train and he's sitting across from us, and he tries to holler, you know, he's like, hey, sweet thing, how you doing, right? Now, this dude, to be fair, was very good looking. He was very good looking. Like when I looked up at him, I was like, oh, you two would make sense. Very good looking dude, put together, everything. And he's like, hey, sweet thing, how you doing? What you doing? Where you going? How's your night? You know? And then she looks up from her phone and she goes, oh, nah. And I hated that I was sitting next to her because I had to turn all the way around. But she goes, oh, nah. And he just sits there. Sits there for like, you know, maybe 40 seconds. And then train doors open and he looks at her and he's like, you can't hurt me. And then he got off the train. And that's what a lot of Drake beefs with women feel like to me. Because the layers of Serena Dance is not just like this FU to Drake. Is one, also, we're playing the game, right? We're all part of the game. And it's a black woman having a good time. It was also pretty revolutionary. You know? If you follow Serena, and if you follow tennis, you'll know that when she did the same dance at Wimbledon, they came for her hard. They said it was too loud, too reckless, too ghetto. And now she's doing it in front of the world. In front of the world with nothing but joy and people cheering her on, right? Giving us full circle moments. I thought that was so dope. You know? I even tried to do it. I hurt myself. I popped right up. I was like, oh, Serena, look. And I think that one of the most revolutionary things you can do is just have joy. Just have a good time. I watch so many people just having fun. I watch people watch it and have fun. That warmed my, just to see so many people having a good time. I know it wasn't for everybody. I know there were some people that thought it was boring, they didn't like it or whatever. And he said ahead of time, you wouldn't get the picture if I sat you for hours in front of the Louvre. So it may not be for you, and that's okay. But I watched so many people have such a good time. It was dope, you know? And it's more than fitting. It's a blessing. It's an honor to talk with you about this, about black music, about black joy at the Orange Peel in Asheville, North Carolina, a place that in the 60s and 70s had incredible black acts. You know, was sometimes one of the few places that they could get booked where black-owned radio stations had DJs do party nights. Like, it was great to be here, and I appreciate you having me. You know, it's. I think that for the most part, when I think about the halftime show, and when I rewatch it for the 100th time,
And there were so many people that were critical of Kendrick. It should have been more. He should have done more. He should have like gone up there, been more militant. He should have done this, should have done this. And it's like, look, can I just tell you, I'm not trying to be a bummer when I say this, but like everything you've ever watched that ever went out on a broadcast that you thought was revolutionary or you thought was ultra militant was approved for you to see by a corporate lawyer. Like all of it was. You know, in fact, whenever a moment gets through that's not that thing, that person usually faces swift consequences. There's so many people that are like, no, he didn't go far enough. He could have done so much more. And it's like, look, I understand. That's what people are saying. But if you really believe that, if you really believe that he should have done so much more, I can tell you this, art can save your life. Art can absolutely save your life. I believe it from the bottom of my heart, but believe me when I tell you that entertainment will never be your salvation, all right? Art can save your life, but entertainment by and large is escapism. And no one has ever escaped their chains by forgetting they were there. So you cannot, when I tell you, you will not be saved through entertainment alone. Expecting Kendrick to rap so good that Trump is like, I'ma stop. Like, be serious. If you really believe that, if you really believe he didn't go far enough, he didn't do enough, there was so much more he could have done, forget the symbolism, forget the double entendres, he should have spoke plainly, he should have put it all out there. I have great news for you. There are these things called books, all right? There are these things called books, and every revolutionary that the government was scared enough to murder, almost all of them wrote one before they died. And they're so confident that you won't read it, they have it for free at the library. I'm just genuinely, I don't know what to say sometimes when people are like, why didn't he do this? It's like, I don't know, man. I'm not in his head. You know, he's great. You can't expect him to save you. He did an entire album where he said he wasn't our savior. The whole album where he was like, yeah, but I rap. I think it was incredible. I think it was a phenomenal show, especially in a year and a time where there are people that would have Black history disappear. You know, there are people that would have us forget. And I think the only way to stop Black history from going away is to make more of it all the time. Make new history all the time, new moments. You know, because so many people were like, man, it was so boring, I didn't get it. And it's like, it's the most watched thing right under the moon landing, but I'm sure that was hate watching. You're right. I think that whatever you take away from the performance, if it's art that touched you, that made you feel something, that's good. That's all you can hope for. But if you want like a revolution, if you want change, you're probably gonna have to go outside and get some or make some. Like if you want, like, because then, you know, he plays Not Like Us and then we all scream mustard. DJ Mustard comes out, they're dancing. And one thing I really loved about the performance, genuinely from the bottom of my heart, is that almost always what people will do, the Super Bowl thing to do is go out there and play your hits, make a medley that reminds us why we love you, right? And this dude, he did some of his hits, but he mostly did this GNX album. He even says it when they start playing TV off. This is GNX. We came here from Compton, California to party with y'all. Master. You know? Then the Super Bowl halftime show ends after he hits that TV off, game over, cold stuff. And then they come back. Tom Brady's like, well, let's see if Patrick Mahomes can like really bring it home. Like, he's so good. I've heard he's great. I've heard he's fantastic. So I'm sure he can come back from this 2,000 point deficit. No, for real though. If you
If you want change, art can save you. Entertainment will never be your salvation. And so if you really want to see a different neighborhood, a different country, a different world, you probably got to turn the TV off.